I came all the way from Switzerland, so I had 21 hours flight, which was fun, and that was yesterday I landed, and then tomorrow morning I'm flying back at 6 in the morning, so, but it's all for you, so I hope you will enjoy it. So, what we will be talking about, or I'll be talking about, this is the agenda. I'll be talking a little bit about me. InfoSec Hoppers is something, a little project of mine and my co-creator of the group, which I'll be talking about. I'll be talking about a little bit about OSINT, when we don't have it, then a holistic approach to all of this, and then more about the face and our emotions. Mian Xiang, I will explain what that is. And don't turn your face away, so once you know all that knowledge that you will have, you cannot unsee, and you have to do something about it. So then how to save your face. So I will be, so all the way through to that point, it's more offensive, a side of security, not me being offensive. But then I will step to the other side and try to explain you what to do and how to protect yourself against social engineering attacks and what I'm using. So I work as a security consultant at DreamUp, where I get to do pen tests, I get to teach people, I get to do research, and I get to do social engineering. I am on the social engineering scale. I'm more into the physical intrusion. So that's why I am researching stuff around facial expressions and people. So my work maybe looks a little bit like this. I love pirates. So one of my, I believe the Providence, at least I saw, I'm not sure if anyone else seen it, Black Sails. It's a TV series about pirates that I really like, and one part of that the TV series has actually been here in Providence. And my first social engineering alter ego was a pirate queen. So my first fake ID is for Grace O'Malley, and Grace O'Malley is actually a real pirate queen from 16th century Ireland. That's her. How she really looked like. I sometimes look like this was outed, I believe, or when I'm pretending to come to fix their router, or I believe Snow said that's the mostly used way how to get into buildings, tailgating. I'm also trying to use new stuff. So I was researching around using UV powder. So I thought that if I will see a pin pad, I can put the UV powder on it and then come back and see which numbers were used. But I forgot the brush. So I had to use my makeup brush, and then in the evening, I looked like this when I was putting my blush powder. So yeah, I actually realized then that the UV powder is not the best way. I then used a UV marker. It was actually really hard to find a UV marker that's not permanent, because usually you need it to be permanent. But I found one that was, hello. I found one that was for kids. And that got me into a couple of places. So UV marker is the way to go. So I am involved in a community. So I am ambassador for besides Cairo, besides Athens, and I'm co-creator of the DEFCON group in Paris. So if anyone is interested to speak in Paris, let me know. We are always looking for speakers. So the group that I was talking about, it's called InfoSec Hoppers. It's a group that we created with Saskia Copland to help women to get into security. We are trying to teach them. So these pictures are actually from CTF that we did. As you can see, there is a man on a picture, so we are not one of those groups that like no men allowed. We are taking anyone's help. And InfoSec hoppers are, it's really funny because we picked a Grace hopper who was like a pioneer of computing. And we realized that later that she was actually horrible towards women. There were some interviews with her, and what she did, she's like, no, other women can't do it. It's like, so we are doing stuff like we are helping women with the CTF, taking them into cybersecurity, but we also do stuff like a buddy system to go to conferences. So it's another thing that I do. So, OSINT. In an ideal world, we would have all the OSINT before doing our especially physical intrusions, and we would know everything about the people that we are trying to manipulate and get into the where we are trying to get. But, so the ideal perfect job would be something like getting our target defined, doing all the OSINT, getting all the information, do all the phishing, vishing, all the ishings, finding the perfect pretext based on all the information, and then just rock up to the place and do all the social engineering. But I don't think that it's always the case. It definitely wasn't the case before for me. So what now? We need to acquire some skills where my social engineer skills had to be more reactive. So I didn't have much of OSINT. I needed to react to the situation and people that I was meeting. I was studying lots of interviewing and interrogation techniques, where, especially in a kinesic one, that's kinesic interrogation. That's about other than verbal cues. So it says that 65% are nonverbal. So for me, the first step is to stop thinking, at least like me, or running my behavioral scripts. So what does that mean? I see it as running virtual machines. So virtual machines, the main hypervisor, that's me. That's the basic stuff you need to drink, you need to eat. Then it's Sarka. So it's me, it's my experience and how I am. Then there is Grace virtual machine, which is my social engineering alter ego. My SIM, so that's I need to always, I'm always analyzing all the input. So that doesn't matter if I'm working or not. So if I then work, I switch on Grace. And I need to switch off Sarka because I don't want to apply any of my experiences or assumptions based on my life to my work. I need to stop thinking like me, and I need to use the knowledge that I've been learning and the research that I've been doing. So from the holistic approach, reality is objective, but our perception of the reality is subjective. What does that mean? Right now, there is one reality that's what's happening right now. But each one of you has a different perception of the reality. So the perception is like a lens to the reality what's happening. So if I understand this, going into somewhere and I need to break into some place, I need to understand that the person has a different perception of the reality. And if I can somehow modify those lens, I can modify their perception reality and then work with that. So body language. So to understand body language, it's good to understand the brain. There are three brains that we have. The reptilian, that's the oldest brain. That's when we were chased by mammoth. And we need to decide what is safe. Is the mammoth wounded, and then can I take it on? or should I be running away? That was the decision part. The limbic brain is the brain that decides then what to do. Then we got the new brain, which is the neocortex. That's the sort of like the thinking brain that sort of makes us lie. So as a social engineer, what I'm trying to look at is the limbic brain, because these are still the real brains where the neocortex doesn't get into action. So fight, flight, and freeze, these are actually the reactions from the limbic brain. So that's what the reptilian brain says, and then the limbic brain makes it happen. So then how it looks like these days, obviously there are no mammoths, but people get scared, perhaps sometimes, or they get nervous, and that's how that's what I'm looking at. So that's called something pacifying behaviors. So what it means, it could be men are touching their neck, it's trying to soothe their blood flow, so they're trying to calm themselves down. Women are often touching their prenatal notch, or if they have jewelry, so if they are, so that for me, or opposite of that is mirroring behavior. So that means someone, it happens quite often, I'm always trying to push my glasses up, and then the people often do the same even without the glasses. So that's the mirroring behavior, and that tells me that the person is they are not stressed, or they trust me. So I'm looking at that two opposites. Does the person trust me, or they don't trust me? And then it makes me change the social engineering attack. So we saw mind, body, and soul. So we are saying that eyes are the windows to the soul. Where I'm getting is slowly towards talking about the face. But before, what do you think is the part of our body that's the most honest? If you're trying to assess someone, if you're looking at someone, how do you know, where would you look? Face? Posture? Hands, eyes? Feet. And I know it's very surprising, but if you think about it, and from feet up, we are losing honesty, which means that our face is the most lying part of our body. And why is that? Because we are thinking about face a lot. It's the part of our body that it's most managed. And then maybe sometimes hands. We know that maybe going into interviews, we are not supposed to be crossing our hands because we come as defensive. So let's get into the face. So there are there are micro expressions, which are longer. They are around half to 4 seconds. They are easy to spot, easy to control, which means easy to fake. So it's not something that I'm really interested in. But micro expressions are very fast. It could be 1/25th of a second even. It's only one, like a part, it's only one region of the face. Makes them harder to spot, but they are very difficult to fake. That's why I was focusing on them. There is one thing. So when we are facing our emotions, when we are in certain emotion, we are only seeing the world in that emotion. Doesn't matter of the knowledge. Good example is when someone is jealous. When someone is jealous, they can't see the truth. They can't understand that the partner really loves them. They are just jealous. And it's the same with social engineering. So if we can make them face some certain emotion, they will act within this emotion, no matter what's the knowledge. So, the micro expressions. There are 7 of them, and they are universal. What does it mean? They are everywhere the same. It's been proven by Mr. Polekman that even going to the tribes that's never been, never seen a TV or never been civilized, it's still the same. The micro expressions are still the same. Based on this, based on Paul Ekman, there is a TV series called Lie to Me that I really recommend. It's a great way how to learn. So let's look at the emotions. So first is disgust, where you can see. I've been trying to do it as fast as I can, but pretty much it's disgust looks like if something smells bad. And I will mention it later again, but it could be, you need to think about the fact that the person might not be disgusted with by you, but it could be themselves or just a thought of something. Anger. So if I will be talking about thin lips. So thin lips, when someone is angry, they push their lips together. But some people with thinner lips, they could look a little bit angry. So we need to be careful about this. So I went to that data center. I was meant to get to server of my client. Leading up to this job, there was an issue talking to the data center because it was a hosted one and they were not really sure about this. We kept pushing the engagement, but we ended up getting the approval, but it wasn't easy. So I was going to the data center. I had everything. I had like a T-shirt printed with the logo of the company and everything. And I arrived in the morning, and I said, "Well, I'm here. We had an issue overnight. There was a failover test, but it didn't fail over, and now we are losing lots of money. I need to get to the servers." He's like, "What's the company?" I said, "This is a company." He's like, "We don't have this company." I'm like, "No, you do. I know that, like, we've been here always, like, you have us." He's like, "No, we don't." And I'm like, those guys, they know. Because it's always, one of the questions that I'm always asking myself, did they let someone know? Because someone always knows within the company, and they usually take it as some sort of like a game where they are trying to win. And sometimes they let their, it could be a colleague or someone else know, just to sort of win. So I was like, yeah, it was little leading up to the job, there was the issue, maybe they let them know. So I was looking at the guy, and I told him once again, I said, really, like, we have our service here, and I need to get to the service, like, we are losing lots of money, and you will be in trouble if you will not let me there. And I saw anger on his face. And that made me think, I was like, he would probably not be angry if it would be real. So at that point, I called my client, and my client was like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, we are actually renting it through another company, so it's actually not us." Well, so, but the anger of on the guy's face there led me to the conclusion that I need to talk to the client, and that continue the test had no future at that point. Fear. So fear is probably not the greatest to see on the faces of your clients, but I actually see it a lot. For some reason, they are really scared of me. I don't understand why. Little, short, blonde women, but there is a replacement receptionist. So there was an engagement where again I didn't get any OSINT. I was just dropped somewhere and I had to get in. It was a new building, so lots of RFID everywhere, and I was like, okay, let's do it. So I waited a little bit. I got through a couple of doors, and I found myself in a parking lot. I have this, if I always pretend to be on a phone. If it's a woman walking up, I tried to be like crying and be like, oh, I told you not to call me anymore, like we broke up, and like, so she feels sorry for me and like lets me go. If it's a guy, I'm like, I told you not, don't put the socks there, like I had enough, like you don't know. So guy's like, oh, what the bitch, just let her go. So it was a woman and it worked. So I tailgated her through like 4 doors. Then again, I tailgated through another person. I find myself finally on the floor because there was lots of RFID readers. Okay, it was a new building, was lots of them. I found myself on the floor where the client was, and I see that there is no one at the reception. So I went to the reception area. There was a free meeting room, and I got into the meeting room. And she came in, and she's like, "Oh, who are you? I didn't have anyone in a schedule. I'm Grace O'Malley. I thought that you knew that I was coming. I'm an auditor." And she's like, "Oh, I'm just a replacement. So I'm just." And she was like, she was obviously very nervous. And I'm like, "No, don't worry about it. I'll do my job here." But then I was like, yeah, I was already on a network, and I already had domain admin, so I just wanted some extra stuff, maybe steal something. So I went to her and I was like, well, I will need to, could you give me a guest access pass? And she's like, well, I don't know how it works. And I'm like, well, you know, like if you're not going to give it to me, my boss, who's this guy, he is going to be really mad, and like I don't want to, you know how it is with him. And she's like, oh, I just saw him. That I didn't know. He was meant to be in a different city. But I was like, yeah, I just spoke to him. That's why, like, I don't really want to disturb him from the meeting where he is. Like, I need to get the visitor pass, so I'm able to walk around and do my job. And I could see that she was scared. So she was like, she gave me the all access pass, and I then actually went outside, found out that they have these barriers, like that are they even have a tailgating alarm. So if you're trying to tailgate, it actually, like, there is a huge alarm that sets off. But for some reason, they opened one part of the barriers, so it was open. So I was able to come back, and then I actually stole some laptops and some documents and went out. So that was fear. Sadness. That's you could see that the eyebrows get sort of pushed together down. You could see that the lower lip that goes sort of goes out, and the corners are sort of pushed up. So the story. So based off to be the stupid blonde. So obviously I play. It plays quite well with my appearance to be sometimes the clueless stupid blonde. In this case, it was a client. I got there, and finally, it was someone who we've been testing over and over, and finally, it was a guy who let me tailgate the year before, but he didn't recognize me, and he's like, but he learned, and he's like, where is your badge? I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry, I forgot, I will go get it. I knew a little bit how their badges look like. They have these just like a generic ones that you can buy anywhere. So it was like, okay, I'm going to use it. So I put the badge, the badge was not showing, it was just the lanyard. That was the same, so I put it in my pockets. And I went back. Again, the same guy, he was always going to the toilet. Maybe he had some issues. And he's like, so did you get the badge? And I'm like, yeah, I was holding this like a little box that had black box in it. And I'm like, I was showing him, yeah, I have it. So he saw this like a little piece of the lanyard. He's like, okay, yeah, just go in. He let me go in. And I tried to plug into network, and there was this lady who was like, what you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm just changing your router, because the black box was in a router. And she's like, do you have a badge? I'm like, yeah, but she didn't fall for it. She's like, could you show me your badge? So I took it out. She's like, and the company was great, and I will talk about it. She just followed the procedure. She didn't, she looked at it once, and she's like, it doesn't look right. Could you come with me to our reception? So we came to the reception, and we came to the reception, and she handed me over, and she just went away. And I was talking to the reception lady, and she was like looking at the badge and the real badge that I was supposed to. They were very similar, and she's like, "Oh, honey, where did you get this one?" It was this like an old lady, and she was looking at me almost like sad that I'm like, what happened? And I didn't know what to say, why I have this kind of badge. So I waited a little bit, and then she's like, "Oh, so where did you get it?" I'm like, "Well, I was told to go get a badge." And then she got even more sad. She's like, "Oh, honey, like you brought it from home? Like you were supposed to come here and we would get you one." So yeah, she got me one. Happiness, so that's probably the easiest one to recognize. The one that I like to see the most in my clients. So it was my first ever engagement. I had 2 days and 3 offices to break in, and the second of the offices I got in, and then I was stopped straight away, and it was like, "What you're doing here?" And I'm like, it was my first day very much at the new job. And she's like, "You need to talk to our building manager." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so screwed, and I'm gonna get fired and everything." And I turn around, and there's this like a guy that's like a little overweight, but like he was just beaming, so happy to see me. So I go, "What do you need?" So he was so helpful. Almost too much, because he was leading me to different parts of the company and showing me all these like stuff that I could normally steal and get away, but he was all the time with me. He was so happy to help. And then I was like, one of my favorite pretexts is asset IDs auditor, because it gets you to talk to people, because you have to talk to everyone who has an asset ID or has an asset with an ID. And that makes you look like you know the people, and also gives you an access to their assets, where you can plug in anything that you want. So, and I'm like, I am guessing that you have also servers that should have asset ID. He's like, "Oh yeah. So we get into the server room, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's gonna take a little while. It's fine. I'm gonna find you afterwards." So my first day at my new job, I ended up in the server room thanks to this happy man. So, surprise, you can see a little bit more of the whites of the eyes. Could be that is a little bit the same as being angry, but I think that you would recognize it. There was this guy that knew everyone. So I was preparing for this job, but couldn't find much. So I was thinking that I will go early to the office, and I will see. I arrived there, and I thought that I could tailgate someone, but I have my fake vape, because I don't smoke, because I'm healthy. But it's a fake vape because it's a perfect way how to. Although it happened to me once where I went to a job and it was snowing. I remember it was snowing, but since I'm not smoking, I forgot to charge my vape, and I was already on the way to the smoking area, just following some people, and I'm looking at it and it's not lighting up, and I'm like, damn, then what do I do? So we arrived there, and like they're starting to lighting up their cigarettes, and like I'm still trying to like make it work. And they're like, everything okay? And I'm like, I think it's just too cold, it's not working. And the girl next to me just like took out the box with a cigarette. She's like, there you go. So I smoke after 15 years. But here I was waiting there was no one coming in, and I'm like, I'm just gonna need to try to get in there. I get inside the lobby, and there was the security guy, and he sees me, and first he's like, he pushes his eyebrows together, which is like, I don't like this, and then into surprise. So I knew that the guy knew that I didn't belong there. I later learned that he knew all 800 employees in the building. So he's like, not even like who you are, anything. He's like, are you visiting? And talking about the feet, so what I usually try to do first, I'm trying to looking at the feet. So I was pretending to be looking for a badge, and I look at his feet, and they were like this, which meant I don't want to be here, like pointing out, but like I have to do this. So I was like, okay. I believe it was Tinker who was talking about the personal space, so I did a step towards him to breach his personal space to make him more uncomfortable. And then he was just mumbling. He was one of those guys that was super nice, but so it was uncomfortable for him to do all of this. And I was making him more and more uncomfortable, to the point where he asked me to check my badge. He didn't even check it. I just waved and he's like, please go. And so that was the surprise guy, which then hated me so much every time he saw me. It's like, I hate you, I hate you. I had to bring back donuts for him because I felt really bad. So contempt it's like a smirk. So my story is about this guy that I knew, who knew that I was coming. So it was a client who hired us to test multiple offices. So we sort of knew that some of them are sharing the information, although I always tell them it's your money and it's really important to not to share it. I arrived, and the guy, there was a fear in his eyes, which was really weird because I had just like very office outfit. There was nothing wrong with me, so why would he be scared? But when he was asking me questions, so who are you? Why are you here? Who did you, the usual stuff. And when I said my name, when I said Grace O'Malley, that I saw the contempt, this smirk that went on his face. I'm like, yeah, this guy knows. And they even had like open doors, and he's like, I need to check it with our manager. He went into, the door was wedged. And on his way into the office, he unwedged the door and closed it just to be safe, which was really funny because then he let me to stay in the area that I then found out that there is he went into the office, and the other door was to meeting room. And in the meeting room, there was a conferencing solution that I then took the Ethernet cable that dropped me into the subnet of the office worker. So, yeah. So, cognitive dissonance is something when it's like our physical body and our internal emotions are not matching, which you can, as a social engineer, you can use it to, if you make people move in a certain way, then their internal emotions become that way. So it could be, I do it often, I look at the table of the receptionist. So she goes up, down and up. So it's a yes, so it's more positive outcome for me later. So what to be careful about. Botox or any form of aesthetic medicine could change faces and could make people look strange, but also not completely, then it's not showing the real emotions. So it's good to be aware of that. Shakespeare, I'm not sure everyone's familiar with Othello and Desdemona. In there, Othello and Desdemona is quite out of his league. And what happens, Othello is very jealous, and then he's suspecting of her having an affair with his best friend. And from her face, he reads that she did something, whereas it was just she was just shocked, and he kills her. So, yeah, that's he should have probably seen my presentation to understand a bit better. So what I was mentioning before, sometimes the emotions that we are seeing, it's not about us, but it could be about the target. So you need to take it with a grain of salt and think a little. Expressions do not tell us about what is generating the emotion, just that it's happening, and we need to think about that. It might not be about us, it might not be the situation. So it's something that we need to take into account, and it's with the people. Everyone is working, and inner workings are different, so we need to take that into account. I promised to talk about Mian Xiang. It's something that I started learning. It's this Taoist practice of face reading. And it's really interesting because it makes sense. For example, people that are very happy have wrinkles in a certain way. So it tells us how they are. So if I see someone who's more of a grumpy nature, who's not a very happy and positive person, then I would not approach him with, hello, how's it going? What a nice day today. But maybe rather, oh, like today really sucks. How, like, is your day as bad as mine? So then it's sort of also could shape the social engineering attacks, but it's something that I've been only researching right now. So now let's step to the other side. So how to save your face, or what to do against these attacks. So first one is that we need to protect the networks with the human assets in mind. Humans are just another part of our networks, and we need to take that into account. We are saying that humans are the weakest link, but it's not true. It's only the fact that how much access they have. So if you look at the person and maybe a server somewhere, the person has probably a much bigger access, and that's why they're being targeted. And we need to take that into account and remediate that. This was IBM threat report that says that the most relentless threat that will continue to rise is inadvertent insider threats, inadvertent insiders. So these are the guys that make just mistakes just because they are perhaps not that interested in work, but it could be just by mistake. It could be because their training is not good, and that's something that we can fix. So, and that's been like a huge issue, and that's something that it's in our power to fix. So, a culture at work. So that's what I actually just said. So we are not the weakest thing. We are blaming the humans in our network, whereas I believe it was Ira who said that there are at least 10 steps in a phishing before the email actually gets to the user where he clicks the link. So why is it that we are blaming the users when it's our responsibility that we need to assume? So awareness programs, it's big thing, and I believe that there is more and more push to actually create them, but we need ones that actually work. And I've been actually studying how to create fake memories or how to implant them in my targets, which is really interesting for another talk. But what I found out during all that, how do we create memories? So what we are seeing here, these are the neurons. So they are firing, the neurons are firing the information and they are growing. But how the memories are being built, it's if the neurons are firing over the same route all the time. So what does that mean? I think that Aya mentioned it as well. It has to be something that it's specific for each department. And it shouldn't be, don't do this, don't do that, because the ways how to hack people there are so many. So why to create new neuron connections all the time with like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen? Why don't we just tell them this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, and just remember what to do when things are not working the way they should? Did you agree that the process is that you get approval from this manager for this financial transaction? Okay, if you get it from someone else, then you should contact IT. And that's it. Okay. Sorry, I don't hear you at all. Easiest company culture to get past? I don't think it's a country thing. I think it's a company thing. So I've seen on both scales differently, and company thing and obviously person thing. But that's why I'm talking about the company culture, because if you get into a company where you're just getting and no one cares about security, you will just follow them, and then everyone follows everyone, and then it creates really bad company culture. So I don't think it's really about a country. It's about the company where you get into. Yes. I think that so far, really, one of the best clients are the ones that need to take care of money. So that's obviously I believe that's how our world works these days a little bit. So it's almost sad, because then it means that where companies that are taking care of actual people and their data, they almost take less care of cybersecurity and creating a really good secure company culture. Yes.
So being an international traveler and your research in facial expression, do you think there's any way we can defeat facial recognition being used at airports?
I actually did a little bit of research into that. There have been a couple of researches. So there was someone who created this hat that had infrared lights, and they were actually trying to fake them into being a different. I believe they were like a famous people. And it was showing the guy how he normally looks like, how he looked like with the infrared lights, and it actually worked. So it changed his like a facial structure, and he defeated a couple of the I'm about to finish. Yeah, but I saw this. I never tried it myself, but yeah, I mean, if you want to try it, I was warned not to make the TSA mad. So.